Hey, it's Andre. It's time for another Friday Flying Update. 2,000 pieces of foam or 2,000 subscribers?
I love this plane!
That's right, welcome to episode of Friday Flying Update number 113. Isn't that crazy? And yeah, we'll have to discuss this. Unfortunately, I had a pilot error and the poor F-16 bit the dust in more ways than one, I guess. Basically, out of sight. Too windy and ran the clock a little too much, and I had no power to bring it back, and yeah, it went down. And I think that's the huge disadvantage with some of these older models, which are EPS foam. They just explode on entry. So there was a ton of foam, everything. We picked up a lot of pieces, and as you can see, I've been slowly reconstructing things, just to see if I can actually do anything with this airplane. But I'm kind of thinking it's going to be too far gone, or it is too far gone, or the structurally it was just too weak. And what the real unfortunate part is I haven't been able to find an airframe suitable for the older power plant. There's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of the newer models that are in the 4S categories use a different power, slightly different spec, and I'm not sure this thing would have enough power to deal with the heavier foam and things like retracts. And I have not been able to find another version 1 of this one, which is a FreeWing F-16 with the vector thrust, which, the whole back end of the airplane is actually quite in good shape, to be honest. All the servos checked out and everything. It's structurally, it just smashed from the bottom end. And like I said, I've been gluing away and just, taking little bits and pieces. The hardest part is honestly the structure after the bulkhead. After the front bulkhead, any of the nose kind of thing, it's just little tiny pieces, and it's like, playing puzzles with all great pieces. So I haven't quite figured out, what that's going to look like. I do have the nose, but it's all the part before where all the gun turret is and stuff like that. So I'm slowly working away on that, just trying to figure out, okay, does that go there, and just using foam tack and hot glue, and, I don't know. I suspect this is going to get hung up as a wall art somewhere, and I'm going to have to move on until I find a suitable replacement frame for that nice 4S setup. Speaking of 4S airplanes that fly really well on EDF, that Vampire, the Durafly Canadian Edition Vampire, wow, Saturday I flew 5 batteries on that thing, and I, got better and better at the landings and everything as I went along. And I was going to go fly on Sunday and do an onboard video and everything, and once I crashed this, I was like, no, it's too windy, it's too irresponsible, so I parked it. But it's a really good aircraft. So it's almost good enough to be that first transition aircraft into EDFs, I would say, because it's real stable, real predictable, does well on the power. I was flying it off the 4S 3300s that I have, and it really just was it flew really well. I was immensely impressed with the thing. It sounds great. You get a little bit of wiggle on it through the wind with the dual rudder setup, or the dual vertical stabilizers. There are no active rudder servos, but otherwise it was really good. And I mean, even this one flew great on Sunday with a couple flights I had before I crashed it, and I was really enjoying it. So, and yeah, you can see I added some colors to it because that was my biggest gripe with this aircraft. And so one of the things I'll probably stay away from is, if I do any further EDFs, which I probably will because for whatever reason I really enjoy flying the EDFs, is I won't go with the gray color scheme. So things like the surprising how well the Vampire actually sticks out. So yeah, and the other aircraft that I have to say impressed is the Timber. And I actually got in 2 new cables today, and they will make a big difference. So the first one is a micro to balance 2S. So what that's going to allow me to do, the UMX connector tube 2S, is take accurate readings on my my battery checkers. You can actually use the male connector off the little micro 280s and kind of wiggle them in, but I don't want to damage my volt checkers or the batteries. So this is a really nice option that's going to go into my check kit. And then the other one is now a cable that goes from balance to male UMX or female, depending on how you want to look at them. Anyhow, the point being is now I can run a 2S500 in here. Now, I don't know how the weight's going to check out or if it's going to do anything to the CG, but if it all works out, well, I've doubled my flight time easily, and this pack can take a lot more punishment than those little micro 280s as far as I'm concerned. So kind of exciting, hey? So I'll do some tests with it, and this aircraft is phenomenal. I haven't even put the slats on it, but we've been flying them like all weekend long in the night and everything. And one of my favorite things to do, honestly, is to put on safe select, dump the flaps, and do coordinated turns. And it's such a fun little aircraft to do that with, and it's pretty durable. We've had a few whoopses with them and everything, a few bangs and bumps, but overall I've enjoyed it. The only thing I was like, I've got these marks and I don't know what they're from. And it's when you do a rough landing, the actual slats there on the gear or the skirts or whatever, they're coming up and touching the foam. So I might just put some tape there, a little extra bit of tape just to protect that. Otherwise, superb aircraft. Now, they did come out with that new UMX Air Camper or Air Commander, or Aero Commander twin. Kind of neat. It looks kind of, it doesn't look as good as this airplane. I'm sure it flies great, but it's like, if it had flaps, I think I would have been like in line versus this guy. But I can't wait to try this guy out on floats and everything this winter, and maybe even make some little baby skis. Who knows? But I think this thing will see a lot of action with me, especially if those two S500s work out, because they'll deal with the cold a little better and give it a little bit more weight in the wind during the winter. So, okay, let's talk about the fun stuff. Actually, what was really interesting this evening was Nate Knight, another YouTuber and fellow builder, was asking me, hey, did you ever build any Mikey aircrafts? And I went, wow, and you go back in the clock, September 29th, 2013, so like 4 years ago is when this all started. Yeah, I picked up, earlier in the season, I picked up the Micro Tiger Moth, but that is when the scratch building really started with that YC-14. I'd just gotten my first radio, the Turner G9X, and some like 2 batteries and the motors and the ESCs, and I built the big cargo plane and we went flying. And that's the beginning of it all. I didn't even know Chris back then, kind of thing. So, the podcast wasn't even on, it just, wow, that's like where it all began. Of course, I probably crashed that aircraft afterwards. I do crash a lot, don't I? So it's just kind of where it all began. So getting flash forward 4 years, and thank you, 2,000 subscribers this week. Isn't that crazy? The YouTube channel is something that I just started just to see how and where it would go. And I don't really proclaim to push hard or make it a huge priority in my flying. I just kind of do it for the fun of it. I enjoy sharing the experience. I enjoy talking about some of the aircraft that I get to fly and review, and just throwing a camera on them and going. You'll see like my second flight was a camera on board the YC-14. It was designed, we cut out the nose and everything and set it up so the gold GoPro 960, which is somewhere back there, could fly on board the aircraft. Why? Because I thought it was really cool. It made some neat videos. So kind of how it all started. So now 2,000 subscribers. There's going to be some giveaways. I'm going to have a little fun with this, and yes, there's going to be a video, and that video will tell you to go over to the RC After Hours page, and we'll set up some things, and we'll make this all awesome and everything, have a little bit of fun. But basically, it'll be your chance to get an RC After Hours t-shirt and a little gift coupon. So just my little thank you kind of thing. So, and by the way, head over to the RC After Hours Facebook page and like us and thumbs up and everything. And we're growing, and the podcast is going great. Actually, we had a real fun one this last weekend because Chris and the guys got to fly their Bushmule after the landing, the ground taxi issues, and had a really good time. It's a pretty funny podcast because we discuss everybody crashing and doing silly stuff and everything. And I guess that's the whole point of the hobby, this is sad. Yes, I get it. It's sad, but at the same time, it's just a foam plane, which, eventually I will find a replacement fuselage for it. The other point from this week was on Tuesday, I sat in or listened in on the Transport Canada UAS TaskForce discussing some of their rule amendments and changes. It is very, very, from my point of view, it is very focused in on the commercial end of it. Fine. However, the hobbyist end of it is being adversely affected by the language of the rules and everything. Mac, to their credit this week, came out with an email, and for the first time, in my opinion, really spelled out what was going wrong with the new language and the new ways they want to word the rules. Yes, and so credit to them for actually recognizing a couple things that we've been saying. One, not all pilots who are MAC pilots or MAC registered people, such as myself, fly at a sanctioned club. Some of us don't want to be involved in the club environment. Some are too far away from the club environment or don't have the time to get to that place. And, the other end of it is, most of us fly small airplanes and really have no issue flying at park and have zero issues at flying at parks and have no issues following some of these rules as recommended. So you have, as a Canadian, if you're kind of an RC pilot, you might be watching this YouTube video, you have until the 13th to submit your points of use to the UAS TaskForce. NOAA has come out with a bunch of recommendations. MAC has come out with a bunch of recommendations. I'm going to be taking both of those into my letter that I'll be writing, and basically a couple of my point of views as well. So it is unfortunate the way things are going. We keep our fingers crossed that the dialogue will be going. It will continue. And that was one of the things I took away from the conversation, listening to everybody's question. It was very professional. There was no arguing and stomping your feet and everything. Everybody was very clear, very concise in their questions, and very polite, which is awesome to see. So, fingers crossed, hopefully some of our points will be listened to and the hobby will continue to perpetuate and grow on, because I would hate to not be able to fly, because that would be tragic, right? So there we go. 113 episodes, 2,000 subscribers, and a whole lot of fun. Remember as well, to the flight test friends, Florida is coming up. That'll be at the end of October or the beginning of November. So that is in Lake Wales, flightfest.com. And if you're volunteering, you'll be talking to me. I'm Andre. Thank you very much for watching. It is the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend as well, so Saturday, Sunday looks a little wet, so I'll probably be down here on the bench building something for all these wonderful EDF projects, because I got to put the twins back into something after that project was decommissioned. And then Monday looks pretty decent for flying. So if you get out there, awesome. Otherwise, thank you. Have a great weekend.